Welcome everybody. Welcome to the Inswinger, powered by RB Technology Solutions. And this is the show that dives deep into the world of sports with our opinions, statistics, predictions, rankings, and many more as we focus on the most prominent sporting topics, most notably from football around the world, the NBA and the NFL. So if you're all about big plays, bold takes, and breakdowns that actually make sense, just hit that subscribe button to join this team. Bless up. Alright everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Inswinger. And today we're going to do a brief preview of the 2025 Europa League Final, which takes place in a few hours between Manchester United and Tottenham Hotspur. And also we'll hear from you, some of our subscribers here at the Inswinger, to find out who you think will win this final and the reason why. Alright, as it relates to the teams that we have participating in this final, it will come as a surprise to a number of football fans, and not necessarily because of the quality of the teams or the names. It's not that, because as recently as 2016-17, we had Manchester United winning the same competition, the Europa League, and we also had Spurs participating in a Champions League final as recently as 2019. But it's more down to the forms of both teams over the course of the season, more specifically in the league, the Premier League, right? It will come as a surprise to a number of fans because now both teams have the opportunity of sneaking through the back door and getting into the Champions League and ending the season with a major European trophy. It's not the Champions League, but the Europa League does represent the second tier of elite European competition, right? So it's still a wonderful trophy to end the season with. And I know a number of clubs will feel hard done by this. Well, not a number. Arsenal will feel hard done by this. Because, Gunners fan are going to say, what more we can do? Upon the season we endure, and we still going to finish the season empty-handed, while two are possibly the worst teams in the league this season are going to have the chance to end up in a Champions League just like us. And basically one up Gunners because they will end up with a trophy. So, it's rough. Chelsea fans won't feel too bad because they have a chance to win the Conference League next week. And City shouldn't feel too bad. They have been the dominant team in England for the past 6 to 8 years. So one half season, not really kill nobody. And there's not much fans around anyway if we really feel a way about it. So we don't really care about City. But that's just the situation that we have with Manchester United and Tottenham Hotspur being in this final. Has there ever been a situation where a team in the league has snuck through the back door like this to end up in the Champions League while having dreadful league form? No, not necessarily, and not to this level. We mentioned Manchester United's Europa League win back in 2016-17. That's the only time it has happened where a team has entered the Champions League through the Europa League without finishing in a Champions League qualifying spot. Man U finished 6th that season, and that's how they qualified for the Champions League the following season. There have been chances for other English teams to do it, namely Middlesbrough back in 2005-2006. They finished 14th in the league, but they made it to the Europa League final where they lost to Sevilla. Fulham also had this opportunity in the 2009-2010 season where they finished 12th in the league but lost the Europa League final to Atletico Madrid. And the next case would be Liverpool back in the 2015-16 season. A few months after Klopp arrived at Liverpool, they finished 8th in the league and they had a chance to qualify for the Champions League, but they lost that final to Sevilla and realized they'll be a Spanish team a beat with. English teams tend to struggle against Spanish teams in these finals, but that's a different thing. So with both teams right now, Manchester United and Tottenham Hotspur, them having a chance to go to the Champions League, it's unprecedented basically. Because right now we have Manchester United sitting in 16th place in the league on 39 points, and Tottenham Hotspur one spot below 17th on 38 points. The maximum points either of these teams can get is 42, and we have seen teams relegated with 42 points before. So one can think that if Ipswich and Leicester did just a little bit better, one of these teams would have probably ran the risk of being relegated. It's not a definite thing to say because it would involve teams like Wolves and West Ham and Palace and Everton to some extent, who were in that bunch with Manchester United and Spurs. they were within that area of the table, fluctuating. So it would involve those teams as well. But I mean, it would really be something for either of these teams to win this trophy and progress to the Champions League. It would be a strong end to the season. And I mean, it won't erase everything that has transpired, but it won't make it look too bad, really. But with all that being said, does Manchester United and Tottenham Hotspur, being where they are in the Premier League but qualifying for the finals of a European competition, does that more reflect on the quality of the Premier League that we've seen this season? Or does it indicate the lack of quality that was present in Europe? Well, namely the Europa League. What do you think? You can leave your thoughts in the comments below. But I personally just believe it's more of a reflection of this specific season. A lot of the teams in the Premier League were exceptional. The mid-table clubs were really punching above their weight for majority of the campaign, and I believe even though there wasn't much of a title race, it did turn out to be one of the most competitive seasons, I believe, in the Premier League. From Nottingham Forest to Fulham to Bournemouth to Brentford to Brighton, all of these teams at some point created some form of upset or went on some ridiculous winning streak during the course of the campaign. But with all of that as well, it leads to another question for me. Should Aston Villa and Nottingham Forest miss out on Champions League qualification? Would it really be a bad thing for them to participate in the Europa League instead of the Champions League? Because if we are be realistic, Villa or Forest really now go win the Champions League. I not say them can't, but it's highly unlikely. But we have Man U and Spurs in a Europa League final. One of them will finish the season with the trophy. And I think at this point, Nottingham Forest and Aston Villa are better teams and somewhat have better squads, and they would more than likely be able to navigate through a Europa League campaign, reach into the final and potentially win a Europa League trophy. I believe that. I'm not saying they should lose their last game and end up in the Europa League or Conference League, but should they miss out on Champions League, I think it would be better for these clubs. You can let me know what you think about this as well. Alright, so right now we're going to touch back on the Europa League a little bit, and we're going to look on the key things for both teams going into this final. Both teams have played 14 games in the competition so far. Both teams have won 9 games in the competition, but Manchester United remains the only unbeaten team in the Europa League, as they have drawn 5 of the 14 matches. Spurs have lost 2. But with Manchester United being the only unbeaten team in the Europa League, they are also the only unbeaten team in European competition as well. So that's one box ticked off in Manchester United's favour going into this final. So in the Europa League, as it relates to the main metrics for teams in the competition, Manchester United goes into the final being top for goals scored in the competition, for in-game possession, and also passing accuracy percentage. So I think that would tick the box as well for Manchester United going into this final, being one of the stronger teams throughout the course of the competition. So it would seem that Manchester United somewhat prioritized the Europa League over the league, we can say, and it can actually work out in their favour taking that route, because there was not much to achieve in the league at the time that Ruben Amorim came in as a replacement for Erik ten Hag. So I believe they basically put all their eggs in the Europa League basket, and it might pay off for them. So just to take a look on 2 of the defensive categories for teams in the Europa League, Manchester United also made the top 5 for tackles made in the competition, as they are 3rd in that category. And Spurs are actually 3rd for balls recovered, and Manchester United sit 4th in that category. And also take an overall look at the main categories for player output in the Europa League. Manchester United has players in the top 5 in these 3 categories, which are goals, assists and attempts on target. Bruno Fernandes, Manchester United's talisman, he's tied for the most goals scored in the competition with 7 goals, albeit 4 of these goals coming from the penalty spot. But we know what Bruno is capable of, so I think he will be a key player going into this final. As it relates to assists, we have 3 Manchester United players tied for 4th place with 4 assists, namely Manuel Ugarte, Alejandro Garnacho and Bruno Fernandes again. And as it relates to attempts on target, we have Alejandro Garnacho sitting at 4th with 13 attempts on target. So as it relates to team news, Tottenham Hotspur has a number of players that are out with injuries, and this might somewhat affect them heading into this game. Pape Sarr was forced off early in the second half of Friday's 2-0 loss at Aston Villa, and reports say that he will be assessed, while Lucas Bergvall is also a doubt for Spurs amidst rumours that he had returned to training quicker than expected, but he's still being watched carefully. But for sure, Dejan Kulusevski and James Maddison, key parts of Spurs' attack, along with centre-back Radu Dragusin, will all be out for Spurs in this final. Spurs are going to still have some key names though. Son Heung-min will be available. Also, Dominic Solanke should be fit and ready to go, along with Richarlison as well. For Manchester United, reports state that there's hope to have Joshua Zirkzee, Matthijs de Ligt and Lenny Yoro available for selection in this final, with the trio working hard to recover to make themselves available. Diogo Dalot and Johnny Evans are also doubts, which means that Lisandro Martinez is the only confirmed absentee for Manchester United with injury. So Manchester United are in a much better position as it relates to injuries and the availability of key players. And with that, Ruben Amorim may be looking to play that team that overwhelmed Bilbao in their semi-final clash, depending on Lenny Yoro's progress. As it relates to the team's progression through the semi-finals, well, Tottenham's attacking brilliance was on full display in the semis, where they swept aside Bodo Glimt with a dominant 5-1 aggregate victory. And their road has been somewhat impressive to the final, but questions still remain over Spurs' consistency against elite opposition, which has always been the question being asked of Tottenham. Manchester United, meanwhile, they cruise past Atletico Bilbao with a commanding 7-1 aggregate win, and this showcased their strength and depth and experience in Europe. And their unbeaten run in the competition, as stated before, underlies their status as a top contender for the title. As it relates to the player to watch for this final, I think Bruno Fernandes will be that man. So far, he has been Man United's talisman in Europe with his 7 goals, and he has been consistently delivering key contributions as it relates to goals and assists. At this point, I don't really see any Spurs player who stands out and could impact this game meaningfully. Heung-min Son over the years has been a brilliant player, but of late there's not much that we've gotten out of Son. If James Maddison was fit, I think he would have been the key player for Spurs. Kulusevski as well. So Spurs missing those 2 players, it's a really big blow for them. So with all of that being said, I think Manchester United are the clear favourites for this final. I think Manchester United will win this final 2-1 over Tottenham Hotspur. I don't necessarily want Manchester United to win this match, but Spurs is Spurs. They can't really be counted on to do anything for anybody. But differently still, when you look at Manchester United's form in the Europa League, it speaks for itself. When you look at the injuries on Spurs' side of the fence, it kind of leaves them short-handed heading into this final. So I think it's a straightforward pick for Man U. Could there be an upset? Maybe. Both teams, as you already know, are not on the best of forms over the course of the season. So it could be a coin toss in this final as to who will take it. But I'm more leaning to Manchester United, and the overline statistics point to Manchester United taking this final. But hear what? We want to hear what you think, the fans out there and the subscribers to the Inswinger. So we're going to touch on some of those predictions right now.
So my prediction for the final tomorrow is Manchester United 3-0. And the reason for this is because Tottenham, their creative midfielders are out. Maddison and Kulusevski are out for the finals tomorrow. And Manchester United still has their star midfielder, Bruno Fernandes, right? So all he has to do is attack the center of the field, attack the right of the field, right? Some long passes all the way up to Højlund. And as long as Højlund can be clinical, which in the Europa League, he is clinical compared to the Premier League, it's going to be an easy win for Manchester United. Unless Tottenham can find a way to ensure that every chance they get is a clinical chance, that they score every chance they get, I don't really see them winning the finals over Manchester United. It's just as simple as that. 3-0, Manchester United.
Yeah, so I represent the Inswinger, and I think at the end of the day, we talk about Manchester United and Tottenham. Yeah, we know Manchester United lost to Tottenham 3 times this season. But I still believe that Manchester United have more winners within the squad. And, they have a good coach. They have the momentum going with them right now. And the tradition of the club actually stands out more than Tottenham. So I'm going to say 1-1, extra time, Manchester United are clip it 2-1. That's the overall analysis of the game. Because I think that even though Tottenham has different makers, Bruno Fernandes can't really write off Bruno. Mr. Manchester United through and through this season. I think he's gonna have a big game, and then we'll talk about Garnacho and a few other players. So I think that this is the time for Manchester United to step up, and this is coming from an Arsenal fan.
So here are my predictions for the Europa League Final. So I'm gonna go Spurs win, obviously. It's been 17 years without a trophy. That's long enough, isn't it? And while we feel so we are going, we feel so we want it more, isn't it? And as a manager said, I always win trophies in my second season. That's a fact, isn't it? He has won trophies everywhere he has been in his second season. And I feel say he will be a key motivator to the players. And if you're a player in that Tottenham dressing room and you need motivation for why if you win that final, you're not going to this up. So Spurs win. May I go 2-0 Spurs.
Alright, so Man U versus Spurs. So it's the kind of game where you don't really want anybody to win. Or at least me don't want nobody to win, because I want Gunners, right? But if I was a betting man, it's the kind of game where you have to throw form and throw logic out the window for the most part. And I think the team best suited to take advantage of this chaos is Man U, because they have a player in Casemiro who is experienced in finals, right? European finals especially. And they have a player in Bruno who can sometimes make something out of nothing, right? So I think that Man U will be the ones that are victorious in the Europa League Finals, unfortunately.
Inswingers, big up, morning. So for my prediction for today's game between Manchester United and Tottenham Hotspur, I'm going to lean towards Manchester United, and I'll tell you why. I know Tottenham has had the better of United this season, both home and away, but I just think Tottenham will be Tottenham. I mean, both teams are in terrible form. I mean, both of them lost the most recent games. But I think Tottenham, the DNA in Tottenham, and there's a part of me that wants to say no. I mean, seeing the anomalies that have been happening this season, we have Kristoff Palace winning the FA Cup, Bologna winning Italian Cup. You had Harry Kane lifting his first title, and you probably want to go along that line, but boy, I just think Tottenham will be Tottenham, and I think United are pretty much more desperate in terms of getting into the Champions League, even though they will drop out after the first in the group stage, of course. But I just think they're going to win. So I see a 2-1 victory coming out for Manchester United. Alright? Big up, bro.
So yeah, we have a one Spurs fan, we are hold it and I will remain loyal. Kudos to you. Can't kill you for that. But as you can see, most football fans and neutrals observing this final from the outside see Man U as the bigger threat heading into the final and the most likely team to lift the Europa League trophy this year and work their way through the back door into the Champions League. Boy, man them still find a way to do it. But let me know what you think, guys. You can leave your thoughts in the comment section below. And remember to like the video, share it, and subscribe to the Inswinger for more football content. Alright? See you soon.